beer hats. Oh, no! Battles deep into the night has left the stadium entirely.
You're listening to the Baumbastic Podcast with Andrew Ellis on Inside Arkansas.
What's going on, Razorback fans, and welcome back to the Baumbastic Podcast presented by Inside Arkansas and hosted by Andrew Ellis. Today's show is brought to you, as always, by Roback.com, Roback Apparel, RHOBACK.com. Go there, check them out. Promo code HOGSBY20 will get you 20% off your first purchase. We appreciate them. And welcome to the show where we have real things to talk about. We have just finished 2 days worth of scrimmage action for the Diamond Hogs. About 10 innings, 10, 11 innings, maybe 4.5, 5, somewhere around there, each scrimmage. Not a crazy sample size, not super definitive where I can sit here and say, hey, this is the starting lineup, this is the starting rotation, here's the closer, here's the setup guy. We're not quite there just yet, but we do have some early impressions of some very important newcomers, some transfers, some returners that need to step up. A lot. We got a first look at a lot of these guys, and it's just good to see the Razorbacks out there playing, practicing, getting back to business, doing what they do best. And I got to say, guys, I had a great time at Baum. Appreciate everybody who was out there. I met some cool fans, and it's always cool to see people coming out to support the team. Of course, you see the parents of the players, you see the families there, and so it's just a cool little intimate vibe, intimate atmosphere there. And I also feel like there's a lot you can learn from seeing these guys in this setting and really seeing how they compete with each other, how they stack up next to each other. And it doesn't always work that way where whoever shows out in the scrimmages is going to show out in the season. We know there's plenty of examples where it doesn't quite work that way. But I do feel like there's a lot you can learn about these guys as ball players, as people, as just teammates working together. And so I'm gonna give you my first impressions, my thoughts initially from the first 2 scrimmages, and again about 10 innings total. So everybody got about 3 or 4 ABs for the most part. Every pitcher that threw in these scrimmages threw 1 inning. So we did not get an extended look. We're not going to solve the answer or solve the question of will Cole Gibbler be able to be an effective starting pitcher? We only saw him throw 1 inning. Will Ethan McIlvain, be a multi-inning closer? Will he get stretched out? Those answers are not going to get questioned, or those questions are not going to get answered this week because, again, all the pitchers just threw 1 inning. And I feel like that also puts the hitters behind the 8 ball a little bit. It's really hard to hit in that setting where you're facing a new arm every inning. And so, I don't think anybody should take this information I'm about to give you and come to definitive proclamations of, oh, wow, this guy went 0 for 3, so he sucks, huh? And this guy went 2 for 3, so he's starting at shortstop. And I don't think that's what you should be doing with this information, but I'm going to present what I have to you. We have some very unofficial stats, and I want to give a shout out to my guy Cameron Green, our new intern here at Inside Arkansas. We have been doing a lot of stuff. We've been growing. We added Dudley Dawson last week, which is huge. We've had some other interns. Shout out to Reagan. Shout out to Gigi. We've had some people helping out in the past, people helping out with Curtis, people helping out with Inside Arkansas Live. A lot of people doing stuff behind closed doors. Cameron's starting to get his face on camera a little bit. Joined us for our EA Sports live stream on Thursday. Joined me for a football accountability session this morning, which just came out. Check that out, by the way, if you missed all of our football post-game content. We did a post-game show, pre-game show, accountability session, and a report card coming out. I guess the report card will probably be out by the time you guys hear this. So we had a lot going on, man, and shout out to Cameron, who's been cool for us. He also was at Baum for both of these scrimmages, helped me get some stats. I had to leave, full disclosure, halfway through the first scrimmage to go to a charity event. No big deal, not patting myself on the back, which bummed me out. If you know me, it was like stressing me out of like, crap, I have to leave in the middle of this fall scrimmage, which is like my entire existence. This is what I do. But shout out to Cameron for being there, being my eyes and ears, being able to help contribute with the stats. And so some of these numbers, again, these are very unofficial. These are just 2 random blokes in the stands writing their own stats. But this is what we have. And so we're going to take a look at it, sort of break down what it means and all that, get into some of our initial early impressions of some of these top transfers, some of these top freshmen. But before we get into today's show, I want to talk to you about one of our sponsors, OZK Insurance. Are you tired of juggling insurance companies just to find the right coverage? At OZK Insurance and Rogers, they make insurance simple again. As a 100% independent agency, they shop the entire marketplace to deliver the best combination of cost and coverage, saving you both time and money. Whether it's home, auto, boat, motorcycle, life, or commercial insurance. Their friendly team has access to a wide range of flexible options designed just for you. They serve Northwest and Central Arkansas, including Bentonville, Centerton, Fayetteville, Little Rock, Hot Springs, Springdale, and beyond. Let OZK Insurance be the trusted advisor you never knew you needed. With over 600 5-star Google reviews, which is notable. Start today with a free online quote at ozkinsurance.com or call 479-715-4200. OZK Insurance, protection made simple. So we appreciate OZK Insurance for all they do. So if I were to make a headline from these two scrimmages and just kind of come up, which, by the way, I actually am going to have to do when I create a title for this episode, which I guess you guys will see. But if I were basically writing a one-sentence story of these 2 days of scrimmages, that title would probably look like Arkansas's transfers look the part, or Arkansas's transfers make strong first impression, because that was kind of the big headline for me. Not everybody was perfect. There's obviously, you see some pros and cons with everyone. You see some strengths and some weaknesses. But I felt like all of the guys that Arkansas that are at the top of this Arkansas transfer class that, you would look at this roster and say, okay, that guy needs to be good for this whole thing to work, for this team to be as good as they're going to be, or as good as last year's team. If they're going to adequately replace the guys that they have to replace, this guy right here has to be good. Most of those guys looked great in these first 2 games. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to be great and it's just going to be, no issues. They're just going to fill right in and they're going to be upgrades from the spot they were at last year. Not at all. But at least my first impression of seeing some of these guys that, again, there's a lot of, not pressure, but some of these transfers you kind of need to hit more than others. I'll list off a few for you right before we get into the stats, and we'll kind of, when we get to the stats, I'll just kind of throw them all together. We'll just kind of go through guy by guy, give some thoughts on how some guys fared and, what some guys did in their action there. But Damian Ruiz, the Lamar transfer, I felt like might have been the best player out there. Like he just looked really good. And when Dave Van Horn was asked about a week ago who some of those top guys were that were standing out, Damian Ruiz's name was the first name out of his mouth. Damian Ruiz, as we know, played 2 years at Houston Christian and wasn't great. Like just kind of was an okay player, hit like 254, not no power or anything, was just kind of an okay mid-major player for the first 2 years of his career. Transfers to Lamar last year and goes ballistic. Hits 388. I believe he had 7 or 8 home runs, had like 20 doubles. On base percentage was like 500. Stole some bags as well. There's a lot of athleticism there. And I feel like, and I've been telling people this for a while before even seeing him play with my own eyes in person, everything I've heard about him, everything I've seen, read, heard, watched, everything that I've seen has made me think that he is basically the Charles Davalon replacement. And when I say Charles Davalon replacement, I don't mean that he is going to hit 370 with 15 home runs or whatever it was that Charles Davalon did, but that leadoff type of guy. And I think Hawk fans are going to love hearing this. Of all the guys on this roster who have power and, maybe strike out a little bit, but don't mind it because they're going to hit some power, Damian Ruiz does not have that kind of skill set. He is a bat-to-ball, aggressive at the plate, a little bit like Tavian Josenberger, I would say, because there was a lot of times, he had 4 or 5 ABs in these scrimmages, and he swung at the first or second pitch, most of those ABs, and he made some hard contact with those swings early in those ABs. Very aggressive, like just very advanced bat-to-ball skills. He also, he hit a double off the wall, showed some power there, but the ball comes off his bat pretty hard, and it just seems like a very mature approach up there at the plate, and looked really impressive in our first look at him. Another guy that I found myself just staring at a lot was TJ Pompey. And the reason I was staring at TJ Pompey, one, he's a big guy, but also he's another one that is, when you're building this roster and you're looking at pieces that kind of need to be there, TJ Pompey is going to find his way into this starting lineup, whether that be at third base, whether that be at shortstop, which is where we got to see him at for these first 2 scrimmages. Maybe it's second base. Maybe they play him at first base. Maybe they DH him. I don't know. But I think TJ Pompey is a very high upside player that, I'm going to have my eye on a lot throughout these fall scrimmages. Really looks the part. Big athletic guy. He's listed at 6'4", like 205, something like that. Very big, older body. And he's a guy that, again, played shortstop both of these scrimmages. Now, at Texas Tech, and he played most of his, he played his entire freshman year, hit 279 with 10 home runs, really solid freshman season. And he was a big time recruit coming out, was off to a really good start as a sophomore, and then gets hurt and misses, basically 70% of the season. So he hits like 345 with 5 home runs, was off to a solid start. Like, hey, this guy might take that next step as a sophomore, ends up getting hurt. He was playing third base at Texas Tech. And the way that Dave described it was, they had an older guy that was playing shortstop, but he was really a shortstop playing third base. Whereas I viewed him more as a third baseman who maybe could play shortstop. The staff thinks he's a legitimate shortstop. And when I was looking at him, he looks smooth out there. Now I didn't see him, there's only a certain amount of, reps we get to see of, they don't just hit balls just so he can make plays. And so he fielded everything that was hit at him. He didn't make any errors. He didn't have any miscues, nothing crazy like that. And I watched him a little bit in warmups to start the game, but we didn't get to see like a full workout of like everything he could do at shortstop. But if you came to the park and you had no context, you would not look at him and say, that guy doesn't look right at shortstop. That doesn't look like a true shortstop to me. I felt like he looked fine out there. Is he going to be as solid as Vahiva Aloy? Is he going to be as good defensively as someone like Jalen Battles? Like, I doubt it. But I am actually I came away from this weekend more optimistic that he really could be an option there at shortstop, which, by the way, you guys, and I say you guys, not everybody, but I feel like a lot of fans have said that of like, hey, TJ Pompey, is he going to start at shortstop? And I have downplayed that. I've kind of been like, I don't know. I don't really know if I see that. I think third base probably makes sense. And I think I've said it 1,000 times on this show. I think the plan for the staff and for just me in my head when I think about this lineup, it probably includes Nolan Souza at shortstop. And by the way, Nolan Souza did not participate in these 2 days of scrimmages. So we don't have our first thoughts on how he's going to look throughout his junior year, but we'll see. Good to see him out there, by the way. He was running with his teammates, trying to warm up, trying to do everything he can, running to go get balls, running to go shag stuff. You can tell he's just dying to get back out there. But in terms of Pompey, man, I thought he looked good. And I think one thing that we need to remember, pretty much every infielder, especially a middle infielder, that comes to Arkansas and starts working with this staff and starts working with these players and kind of gets into part of this culture, they all get way better defensively. And that's really not an exaggeration. If you remember when Vahiva Aloy transferred to Arkansas, we all looked at his numbers and we said, wow, this dude made 16 errors as a freshman. Are we sure he's going to be able to start at shortstop in the SEC? I don't know. There were even some scouts who were like, yeah, he might be a second baseman, maybe could play third. I don't know if he's a shortstop. He answered all of those questions very definitively. By the time he got finished at Arkansas, I mean, he was the best shortstop in the country, won the Golden Spikes, but was one of the better defenders we have ever seen at Arkansas. So it's very possible that these very big, very athletic, very projectable, very highly touted recruits will find a way to make it work with this coaching staff. I also really like seeing Dave interact with Pompey one-on-one. And, he's not sitting here pulling him aside, teaching him how to field a ground ball, but I just liked seeing them interact and having some conversations, seeing Pompey come over to Dave and ask him questions. I don't know what he asked him, but it's just cool to see some of those interactions play out in this kind of setting. A few other transfers that I feel like we've got to talk about a little bit. The pitchers that I thought were really impressive. Ethan McIlvain threw 1 inning, looked good in that 1 inning. Jackson Kersher threw 1 inning, looked good in that 1 inning. Jacob Amoto, the left-handed pitcher, threw 1 inning, looked good in that 1 inning. I'm not coming away from this being like, yo, guys, I'm blown away by these guys. They were unbelievable. But it was good to see them look good. Like I said, all these transfers that you kind of need to be good have looked good, which I just feel like is a good sign there. I feel like there's another transfer guy that I'm missing out on. Who is this other transfer guy that I'm missing? Oh, it's Micah New. That's who I'm missing out on. Micah New, the transfer from Marshall, who is projected to be the starting center fielder. By the way, Micah New started at center field for the 2 games for his team. Him and Damian Ruiz were on opposite teams. Now, they did not do the thing that they've done in years past where they loaded up with who they think the starters are. There were a good mix of starters on both sides. But part of that included Damian Ruiz playing center field, which is something Dave said, hey, this guy's more athletic than we realized. We think he actually could play center field. Will that be the case? Obviously, only one of those guys is going to start in center field. I imagine both of those guys, Micah New and Damian Ruiz, are going to be in the starting lineup. So with Damian Ruiz, you could have an overqualified left fielder is basically what I'm looking at there, or maybe a right fielder. I don't care where they're going to play him. But I thought Micah New looked the part as well. The thing about Micah New that I feel like is kind of the calling card for him. It's a very clear power speed combo. He has other tools, and he's got well-rounded, attributes in other areas, but the power is well above average and the speed is well above average. We got to see a little bit of the speed with a couple stolen bases. Hogs really got every catcher that was not named Ryder Helfrich. The Hogs bullied a little bit. That's just kind of the way it was in these scrimmages. When I pull up these stats, you're going to see some stolen bases, and you're going to say, oh, wow, so that means now we're a stolen base team? We're going to be wheeling and dealing? As you know, that's not the case. It's this type of setting. They give them the free reign. There were also some guys thrown out, by the way. They kind of let that happen. But Micah knew we got to see a little bit of that. We didn't see the power, which not a huge deal. There really wasn't a ton of power on display during either of these scrimmages. I believe there was one home run in each game. Carson Brumball, the freshman, who we'll get to in just a second, he hit a home run. Impressive. Good to see. And Ryder Helfrich hit a home run. I believe both of those were opposite field, by the way. Brumball's was to like right center, which is like, for a right-handed hitter, pretty impressive as a freshman to be hitting an opposite field home run to right center field. We'll take that, but not a ton of power on display. But I thought it was actually good for Micah New because, again, the power and speed, not really a question mark. Like, we know he's got that. I'd like to see him get on base. He had a couple base hits, blooped in an RBI single with the bases loaded, had a base hit in the first scrimmage, so he had a base hit in both scrimmages. Drew a walk in the first scrimmage as well, was just kind of on base, working good ABs, fighting off 2-strike pitches. I just was really impressed. I thought he had a better overall approach than maybe I was expecting because he was pretty boomer bust throughout his career. He was boomer bust at Marshall, and then, of course, had a lot of boom there down the stretch. And even in the Cape, when he won Cape League MVP, was the best player in the Cape. He had his fair share of 0 for 4 games and over 5 games with 3 strikeouts and things like that. So I kind of expected to see this guns a-blazing hot shot that's like swinging it, balls above his head and kind of going out of his way to try and make some of those plays. I didn't see that from Micah New. I saw a little bit of an advanced approach. And that's something that with some of the veteran players, you saw a decent amount of. I remember Ryder Helfrich one time had an AB where he ended up working a walk, and he took a lot of close pitches. And every time there would be a pitch right on the outside, he would kind of shake his head like, that's not in the zone. I know the zone. That's not in the zone. And I love to see stuff like that. So, again, initial headline, all of the transfers looked very good. Another miniature headline I think I could say is this freshman class, which if you've been paying attention and you've been listening to me yap for all these months, this freshman class is expected to be significantly better than last year's freshman class. That's not to say that last year's freshman class wasn't good or that this one is like even like this historic thing or anything like that. But it is a substantially better class if you just look at the rankings, whether it's Baseball America, Perfect Game, whoever, or just a list of guys who were highly touted recruits that made it to campus. But specifically, the position players, man. And it's a long list of them, man. I know Landon Schaefer, by the way, is the name that everyone's kind of waiting to hear about. And I'm not saying you're not going to hear about him, but it's like, if I were to list off the most impressive freshman position players on this team so far, there's about 5 or 6 names I would go through before I got to Landon Schaefer. And that's, again, not a knock on Landon Schaefer. It's very early. And like I said at the top, like, don't look at these numbers here and say, oh, that guy went over 4, he sucks. That's not the case. All of these guys are very good. But I think I want to say I was undersold on some of these freshman position players. But I'll tell you one that jumps out right off the bat. Like, when you're just looking at this team, the get off the bus guy that kind of jumps out to me is Alexander Peck, who's from Tennessee. Big. He's like 6'4", 200, similar to that TJ Pompey, similar to that Vahiva Aloy build. And he's wearing number 9. The dude looks like Vahiva Aloy out there. And I don't mean he's as good of a player as Vahiva Aloy. I just mean like physically, profile-wise, looks like Vahiva Aloy. I've been hearing some buzz about him in workouts leading up to these scrimmages, not even talking about baseball activities, just from a physicality standpoint. Hey, this Alexander Peck, he's got some athleticism, he's got some projectable, some tools that we really like. And then you're starting to see his glove a little bit. He was playing some shortstop. I can't remember where he played in the first scrimmage, maybe second, maybe third. I can't remember. Maybe he DH. But he played some shortstop out there. Didn't see a ton hit to him, but just athletically looking at him out there, like, again, doesn't look out of place at shortstop. Didn't look weird, herky-jerky, like a really good athlete. Hit a couple balls really hard, had a double, had a single, so 2 hits in 2 games. I was really impressed with Alexander Peck, man. I thought he looked apart. Carson Brumball kind of went viral on Friday for being Shohei Ohtani because he hit a home run and then literally a few minutes later, pitched a scoreless inning with 2 strikeouts and then comes back a few minutes later and hits a home run. Really impressive stuff. Carson Brumbaugh is another guy that we've had on this podcast. So obviously I'm not going to go get some bum to be on the podcast. If he's on the podcast, he's a stud. You know that. But of course was a very highly touted recruit as well. So not the most stunning surprise that Carson Brumbaugh looks good, but first impression of him, I would say, was a very positive one. Not as big as Alexander Peck necessarily, but not a small guy at all. In fact, I was talking to a fan who said he kind of reminds him a little bit of Caden Wallace, body type wise and athletically, because Caden Wallace is one of those guys that 6'1", 200, like a stout guy, but has really good speed. And Carson Brumbaugh has plus speed, also has plus power as well, also has a plus throwing arm. So a lot of interesting tools there. We'll see if he's able to put it together, and we'll see, by the way, the thing that jumped out with me is like, I don't know if I was expecting Carson Brumbaugh to be this big-time pitcher. Like, I knew he was a position player. I knew he had a chance to play shortstop. I knew he could play third. I knew he could play second. I knew he could play outfield if they really needed him to. And I knew he had a great arm, and I knew he pitched. I honestly did not realize they were going to give him an opportunity to be a two-way guy and that he was going to be good enough to make it work. And I'm not saying, hey, that's how it's going to work, and he's just going to be the closer and the shortstop, and, there we are. But based on this first weekend of action, seems like he's a guy that can kind of handle that a little bit. And so I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. I think he went 1 for 4 with the home run, but also had a line drive right to the center fielder. The ball jumps off his bat. I'm really impressed, man. I can't wait to see more of Carson Brumbaugh. I was really impressed with him. And of course, if you've listened to the podcast, you've already gotten to know him a little bit. So I was excited to see that a little bit. And man, the freshman pitchers as well, even some of the ones that like I expect to be really good. It's not even like they looked awesome. Some of them even struggled a little bit, but you just look at this freshman class. There's a lot more talent than I think people realize, and definitely more so than there were last year. There were a few freshmen that I thought that really weren't high on my radar that really impressed me. I'll tell you a couple that really stuck out. Carter Rutenbar, who is a utility guy, has caught, could also could play outfield. I don't know what they're going to do with him positionally. I think he was the DH in both of the scrimmages. He had a hit in each scrimmage as well, had a double on Friday, had a single on Friday, had a single on Saturday in a left-on-left matchup with Joey Lorenzini, who is one of the freshman pitchers that I've been as high on as anybody. And I think he has a chance to really help Arkansas right away. Carter Rutenbar, left-on-left matchup, just blasts a single to center field, like a really good piece of hitting. That's tough to do. And if you're doing that day one of your college career, that's really impressive. And so, I'm listing off a lot of names here. As you guys know, it's not like all these guys are going to get to start. There's going to be really good baseball players who are left out of the starting lineup, and we're going to be like, damn, how did that happen? I thought this guy was a stud. Why is he not starting? There's a lot of really talented guys on this team. Cade Mitchell, the freshman from Arlington, smoked a double. He didn't get a ton of opportunities. He did not play the field in either scrimmage, which I was a little bit disappointed by. I believe he only got 2 at-bats total, roped a double down the left field line with one of those at-bats. I thought he looked impressive as well. Luke Cornelison, he pitched, by the way, and played the field, played some first base, also got some ABs. He didn't do anything too crazy, but I thought he looked the part. He looked like he fit right in with some of these top college guys that have been here for a couple of years. I thought Arkansas's freshman class came to play this weekend, man, and I was really impressed. And so I'm sure the coaching staff is also encouraged by that. Before I let you guys get out of here, though, let's just quickly run through some of these numbers, and we'll touch on it. You can kind of see these numbers and make your own conclusions about who sucks and who doesn't. You see there at the top, Micah New with his couple hits. Reese Robinette did a good job hitting second, playing first base for his team. Ryder Helfrich had the big home run. Ryder Helfrich also threw out another freshman I didn't talk about, Christian Turner, left-handed hitting outfielder from Louisiana from the boot. He's another guy that's been really impressive. I thought he looked the part as well. He had a base hit off of, let's see, would that have been? It was off of Steel Leaves. He had a base hit off of Steel Leaves. I hope I'm saying that right. I hope I have that right. I think it was Steel Leaves. Yeah, he had a base hit off of Steel Leaves. Drew a walk the other day. He actually drew a walk against Jordan Martin. And then there was 2 outs, and he tries to steal second, and Ryder Helfrich throws him out. And it was a little bit of a controversial out call. I think he actually maybe was safe initially and then slid off the bag, and then the guy put the tag on him, so they call him out. And DVH insisted, hey, no, the inning's not over. Just send him back to first. He disagreed with the call, but he was like, hey, let's just keep the inning going. And then Christian Turner tries to steal again. Ryder Hoverick throws him out again. And so they're like, all right, let's end the inning now here. Zach Stewart, the Missouri State transfer, did not really see him show out. I mean, not a ton going on. Only had a handful of ABs. Nothing really crazy. I'm not like concerned about it. He would be another guy that he would fall into the category of just because he went over 3 doesn't mean he sucked. But in this first weekend, did not necessarily show out. Carson Brumbaugh, who we talked about, Ty Briscoe, freshman left-hander who pitched a little bit and looked great in his inning on the mound, by the way. Also got a couple ABs. The one AB I remember seeing from him, saw one pitch from Jordan Martin, popped up that one pitch to third base, and that was it. So a little bit sad that you only got one AB on the day, and it was one pitch, one swing. That's it. But he was really good on the mound. We'll touch on that in a second. We'll pull up his pitching line. I'm intrigued by him. He's another really talented freshman that can help this team. Luke Cornelison goes over 3. Christian Turner has a lot of power, by the way. We have not gotten to see that power other than BP a little bit. We'll see if there's more home runs next week around. But Christian Turner is another freshman that is just very toolsy, can really help this squad. Tyler Holland, who's been around for a couple years. You see Walt Jones, Carson Willis, who played some right field. Carson Willis, who's like maybe the 3rd-team catcher, maybe the 4th-team catcher, but also played some right field. A little bit interesting there. And then at the bottom, and by the way, these are not separated. These are not like lineups here. And they're really not even separated by teams. They played 2 games. The lineups were a little bit different each time. This is really just a list of names thrown together, and we kind of just put a spot there. And by the way, these are stats for the 2 scrimmages combined. You see Damian Ruiz had a couple hits. Brenton Clark, who hit leadoff in the first game, hit second in the second game. Or maybe I have that backwards. Hit second in the first game, lead off in the second game. I thought he looked impressive. Like he looked like we expect him to look. I mean, we've seen him. He had a really good fall last year. If you didn't know, if you had no context and you were just out of the ballpark and you saw Brenton Clark and you saw him hitting second, saw him hitting leadoff, he looks the part. Like he looks like a guy who fits in with a Damian Ruiz, with a TJ Pompey, with a Cam Kojal. He looks every bit as good as those guys. And I'm impressed with him. I think he is going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I got to be honest with you, I'm not ready to do this yet. This is not an overreaction. This is not a thing. I'm not giving you guys a definitive starting lineup anytime soon. I'll just tell you that. But if I were, Brenton Clark would probably be starting in right field, if I'm just being honest with you. TJ Pompey, of course, had a couple stolen bases, was 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts on Saturday. He is a guy that, again, fits that category of like a little bit boomer bust. I think he's going to be very Brent Iredale-y at the plate, where you're going to see some power. You're going to see some, you're going to see some explosiveness. You're going to see some athleticism. Like, you can see the potential there, but I don't think he's going to be this guy that hits 350 and is super consistent getting on base. I think there is going to be some 3 for 4. I think there's going to be some 0 for 4. You just kind of have to live with it. Cam Kojal, we know him. He's good. Carter Rutenbar, great job. Made a really strong first impression. Landon Schaefer had a little bit of a welcome to college baseball moment this weekend. Although I will say this about Schaefer. In the first scrimmage, played right field, which is interesting. This is a guy that played shortstop, of course, at Fayetteville High School. Thought, hey, maybe he'll play third. Maybe he'll play second. And he did play third base in the second scrimmage and made a couple nice plays. Looked good at third base. Matter of fact, made a nice little play where he had to, they hit a ball right back to him. There's a runner on third, gets the guy out at home. Good to see him handle that situation. Played some right field as well. So we'll see if that positional versatility is maybe his best path to getting into the lineup. But of course, is going to have to hit. Alexander Peck, we talked about him a little bit. Big, strong freshman. Looked really impressive in his first debut as a Razorback. Brennan Kleiman, the catcher, who transferred from Eastern Michigan, who's kind of brought in to be the backup catcher. Seems like he will be that. He did have a base hit against, I believe that would have been against Peyton Lee, freshman from Maumelle. We'll touch on him in just a second here. And Caden Mitchell, who I touched on a little bit earlier, freshman from Arlington. I'm excited. I want to see him play the field because I feel like he's a guy that could maybe play some third, maybe he could play some second. We'll see what they do with him. But I thought he made a nice little first impression at the plate. Would love to see him get a few more ABs. Now on to the pitching stats. So these are here are the pitching stats from scrimmage number 1. These 6 guys right here at the top that I'm showing here. And by the way, if you're not listening or if you're not watching on YouTube, I apologize. I'll try and go through some of these stats here for a second. Cole Gibler throws 1 inning, allows a hit, doesn't allow a run, strikes 1 out. He was against basically the starting lineup. And that hit that he gave up was a double off the wall to Damian Ruiz. And I think it was a second pitch he threw. I think he threw a fastball that just missed, just outside ball one, and then literally double off the wall in left field. And so, and he ended up straining that runner. So good job by him. Cooper Dossett, who we've talked about a lot on this program, made his return to action to facing live hitters. And I'm going to be honest, it did not go super well. Struggled with command, issued 3 walks, did strike out Ryder Helfrich. Did get ahead 1-2 on Reese Robinette. Thought he was going to strike him out. Reese did a good job battling back and kind of forcing his way back into the count. Ends up working a walk, and so they ended up calling the inning because they wanted to keep his pitch count down. Which you see some of these guys have 1 inning pitch. You see some of these guys have a third of an inning pitch, and you'll see that in the second game as well. They a lot of times, of course, they reserve the right to just call the inning whenever they want. And in Cooper Dossett's case, did not want that pitch count getting too crazy. So not a tremendous return to action for Cooper Dossett, but again, nice to get his feet wet. Nice that he's healthy and out there. Velo was good, by the way. I sat next to some scouts, and they were kind of looking over like, not bad. Like they were doing a lot of, let me put my face on the screen for this. When Cooper Dossett was throwing, there was a lot of this going on with the scouts. You know, a lot of like, okay. Like I think that might have been a guy maybe they weren't super familiar with, and like, oh wow, that's a 94, that's a 95, interesting. Steele Leaves, he throws 1 inning, and by the way, if you followed his summer, this is about how Steele Leaves' summer went. 1 inning, no runs, no walks, like just kind of getting guys out, getting the job done quickly. So he allowed a base hit to Christian Turner, and then immediately gets a double play ball. Which, by the way, I want to talk about that double play ball. Really good play by both Reese Robinette and Carson Brumbaugh. It was a ball hit right back. I think it was Rutenbar who hit it. Hits it to Reese Robinette, who has to kind of come in. It was like a high chopper that was hit pretty softly. Reese comes in at first base and has to throw to second base, which as a first baseman, first basemen are typically there. You don't really have to flash the arm strength too much. This is a very tough throw that Reese Robinette makes look way easier than it is. Comes in, throws it to second, and Brumbaugh catches and turns and fires right back to Reese, who I think got back over and was kind of close enough to where he's able to cover. Really impressive by both of those guys. Reese Robinette, one, to have the initial, get the lead runner, and then Brumbaugh, a lot of times that's a play. With it being softly hit, you're really not expecting to get two. Brumbaugh made it look easy. Fires a really strong throw over to the first base. He had a 3-6-3 double play that helped limit the damage there from help Steele Eaves keep it to a minimum facing the inning. I think the next pitch he threw, he was out of the inning. So he gives up a hit and then is like out of the inning in 5 pitches. So it was a good first impression there for Steele Eaves in his sophomore year. Jacob Emoto, the transfer from JUCO, left-handed pitcher who I think it's pretty simple. There's really not a ton of mystery with Emoto. He's a left-handed pitcher who's going to be able to pitch and get left-handed pitchers out or left-handed hitters out. We'll see if he kind of is able to work into that Parker Coyle type of role where he's like a maybe multi-inning guy that you can stretch out. But I think at the bare minimum, Jacob Emoto is going to be a left-on-left specialist that is going to help Arkansas on the weekends. He looked really good, goes 3 up, 3 down in his first inning as a Razorback. Ethan McIlvain hit a guy, and that is something that I think he will do. I think there will be, he'll have his fair share of pitches that you go, whoa, that one got away from him. But he was electric, man. Like we don't have the velo. I didn't ask. I didn't want to badger the scouts and ask for their numbers. But Ethan McIlvain, my understanding was throwing very hard. Throwing very hard was what he was doing. Speaking of throwing very hard, Jackson Kersher also throws a scoreless inning. Both of those guys go 1 inning, strike out 1, do not allow a hit, do not allow a run. Good stuff all around. And again, those top 6 guys right there, Gibler, Dossett, Eaves, Emoto, McIlvain, and Kersher, all 6 of those guys are guys I expect to contribute on the weekends in a legitimate way for this Arkansas Razorback team. So good to see those guys look the part. And it doesn't mean, hey, we're all set. These guys are studs. They threw 1 inning of good work in fall. That means we're all set on the pitching staff. But it's good to see those guys look good. It is nice to see. Freshman Mark Brissy, who I got to meet his dad, by the way, a local in-state guy, local product, had a little bit of a welcome to college moment, gave up a few hits. And he faced the starting lineup of like Micah New. I can't remember who it was. If it was Damian Ruiz, maybe they got a hit off of him. But he faced like the top guys on the team, faced some legitimate hitters, and they made some damage against him. They gave, by the way, the fact that Arkansas, and I should have mentioned this at the top, they structured these scrimmages in a way that basically allowed some of these guys, they would do a quick little break for about 10 minutes after the first few innings to kind of reset and refresh so that pitchers could go through a little bit of a starter routine. Mark Brissy and Colin Fisher were those guys that kind of got to go through that starting routine, got to treat it like a start. The fact that they put Mark Brissy in that type of setting, I think says a little bit about him and how, that they think there's something there. Did not go well for him. We'll see if he can maybe bounce back and build from that. But I'm not willing to write the kid off after one outing that got away from him. Colin Fisher wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible in his outing or anything like that. But I wouldn't say it went super well for him. Gives up a hit, gives up a run, does walk one. The thing with Colin Fisher is the command was that when he was a freshman, I felt like his command was super advanced, even for a freshman. And it's not that he doesn't have good command now, but it's for a guy that's a lefty that's 90-92, it kind of needs to be well above average command. And it seems like this summer, sometimes, throughout the season even, that command has kind of come and gone. So we'll see if he's able to bounce back. But I don't want to say I'm mad at Colin Fisher. I'm disappointed, but I would say that he's one of the guys that I'm not coming away from these scrimmages blown away by. Carson Brumbaugh looked really impressive in his one inning of work, strikes out a couple, throwing that fastball in the mid-90s, looked impressive. Luke Cornelison, another two-way guy, got some work there, did give up a run on 2 hits. And then we go into day 2. Parker Coyle allowed a base hit to Reese Robinette and then allowed a home run to Ryder Helfrich. So he gives up 2 runs in his first quote-unquote start of the offseason. Joey Lorenzini, a freshman that I'm really excited about, he got roughed up a little bit, gave up a base hit to Carter Rudenbar. Someone else roped a base hit down the left field line against him. I can't remember who it was. He ends up issuing a walk, and so he kind of had to battle through his inning. Seemed like he was going to he did get a strikeout. Seemed like he was maybe going to be able to limit the damage. And then he also did have an error that kind of, I think it was a throwing error. So he had a double steal. Kleiman throws down, ball gets away from him. So one of those runs scored unearned against him. They ended up calling his inning with 2 outs after he issued that one walk at the end there. And so it didn't go super well for Lorenzini, but we see this happen a lot. Need I remind you guys, Gage Wood's first outing as a freshman at Arkansas was walk, hit by pitch, grand slam. That was all she wrote. So it is very okay for a freshman to not have a great outing to start his Razorback career. Grant Wren, you want to talk about freshmen that face guys and kind of get woken up a little bit. The first pitch Grant Wren threw was a base hit by Damian Ruiz. Just smoked it right back up the middle, kind of like, hey, all right, here we are. We're here. It's college baseball. And then he comes back and strikes out Reese Robinette, strikes out Ryder Helfrich, and I think he got Zach Stewart to ground out. Really impressive bounce back against a dangerous part of the lineup there for Grant Wren. I love to see that stuff, man. And another guy that they kind of gave a starting opportunity was Peyton Lee, freshman from Maumelle, who at one point was a guy that people were wondering, was he even going to make it to campus? He ends up making it to campus, got banged up during the end of his high school career. It did not go well for him, got a little bit roughed up by the starting lineup in his first outing of work as a Razorback. Ty Briscoe, though, the lefty, comes in and just shoves and got a lot of positive reactions from his dugout. They were cheering for him. Maybe I don't know if that means he's just a big personality on the team or if they were just excited to get the scrimmage over with, but he looked really impressive in his work, picked up a couple strikeouts. Good to see from the freshman left-hander. And speaking of left-handers, Hunter Dietz gets a start to start yesterday's scrimmage. Wasn't perfect, had a couple pitches. What's funny is I don't know if he landed a breaking ball. Actually, he did land a breaking ball because he got one of his strikeouts on it, but his fastball was absolutely jumping. Really electric fastball, got a ton of swings and misses with it. I believe he struck out Brenton Clark with a fastball elevated left on left. The fastball, I didn't have a velo reading. The fastball was electric, though, from Hunter Dietz. And he had a couple, breaking balls that just missed. He just couldn't quite get the feel for it, was not getting on top of it, and they missed by a good amount. And so that line you see, and by the way, those hits, actually, no, he didn't strike out Brenton Clark because Brenton Clark reached on an infield base hit and then was thrown out at second base trying to stretch it into a double when the throw got away at first base. Who was it that he struck out? He struck out Micah New. I can't remember who else it would have been that he struck out, but looked good in his inning. And then the other base hit he gave up was to Cam Kojal. Good piece of hitting. I think he fell behind 2-0 against Cam Kojal and then left on left. Stayed strong, roped one to right field. But Hunter Dietz, I mean, listen, I'm not ready to declare him the best pitcher on the team or even declare that, hey, he's going to have a huge, massive role for this team. But the things are trending in a positive direction for Hunter Dietz. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought the stuff was electric, which honestly, I really have been waiting. And I've said this a few times. I've been waiting for that stuff to kind of get back to where it was. And then we can fix the command. We can work on the command and we'll get you experience and we'll kind of get you ready to roll. But it was really encouraging to see that fastball have some life, get some swings and misses. Speaking of guys who have good stuff, Jordan Martin is a freshman that we've talked about on this show. We've shown some video of him. I really like him. He's very raw, but you can just see there's so much room to grow. And I think even while he's growing, he's going to be able to help this team a little bit. He worked pretty well through his one inning of work, did allow a base hit to, I can't remember who that would have been, one of the freshmen. But Jordan Martin looked pretty solid in his one inning of work. And James DeCramer, the transfer from Oregon State, faced 3 hitters, got those 3 hitters out. Kind of like a lot of these other transfers that Arkansas needs to be good. Some of these older guys like an Emoto, like a McElvain, like a Kersher, James DeCramer makes a solid first impression, induces some weak contact, gets out of there pretty quickly. And Tate McGuire, building on his productive summer, looked really good in his one inning of work. And so that is basically your scrimmage recap. I didn't do it like here's what 1, 2, 3. Here's first inning, second inning, third inning, because I figured you guys didn't care about the structure of the scrimmage. You just wanted to know who played well, who did what, who had the cool highlights, who had the cool stats, and I hope this episode sufficed a little bit. And so I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to let you guys get back to your beautiful Sundays, but this is a little bit of a snapshot of what happened at Arkansas's first 2 scrimmages. Some really encouraging stuff from some freshmen and some transfers. I would say the newcomers, for the most part, showed out. And I'm excited to see how this group grows from here. In case you were wondering, by the way, Kahio Aloy did not participate, still nursing that hand injury a little bit. Nolan Souza, of course, not going to be back for most of this fall, if not all of this fall. And, of course, Gabe Gackle was shut down, although he was out there. He is not participating this fall, as we know. I hope I didn't miss anything else. If you have any questions, absolutely leave them in the comments. I'm going to do another episode this week where we're kind of rehashing some things and maybe reassessing where we stand with the position players, with the pitching staff, all that. And can't wait to get back out to Baum to see some more Scrimmage Jackson show. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, it's been another productive episode of the Baumbastic Podcast. Have a great Sunday, and woo down.